he's got a podcast, cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to The Art of Bombing, everybody. We've got a few viewers out there. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm your host, Dan Bublitz Jr., and with me is the new producer and co-host,
Josh Shirley. Great to be here again, Dan. Let's get excited.
Yes, I'm excited too. This is our first live stream as a team, and we have a great guest today that we'll be bringing out a little bit later. We have Erin Tracy is joining us. I'm very excited to have her on the show today. She's a fantastic comedian based in Los Angeles. But before we get to the guest, we got to, take care of the housekeeping and stuff like that. Do all that kind of stuff. I do see we have some viewers. Thank you guys for watching. Remember, if you guys want to interact with the show, all you have to do is make some comments. And remember, if you're watching the show from the Art of Bombing Facebook group, you will appear as an anonymous user. So we won't be able to tell who you are unless you tell us who you are. So keep that in mind. If you're commenting anywhere else, we should be able to see your username. But feel free to interact, during the show while we're doing our conversation with Erin. If you have questions, we're going to save the questions towards the end of the podcast and do a Q&A with everybody. So just save the questions, or you'll put them in there, and Josh will be keeping an eye on that stuff, and we're going to make sure we get that. All right, cool. Sidecar Driver. That's Lee Bruns. He's a good friend and supporter of the podcast from Watertown, South Dakota. Thanks, Lee, for joining us. It's good to be here. How was your week, Josh? Did you do any shows this week?
Yeah, I bombed a couple of times in the same night.
Oh, nice.
Just did a couple of, just working on some stuff for my show on the 8th at Knuckleheads, which is a great venue here in Kansas City. It's going to be a great time on that show with some comedians here in town. It's going to be fun. And you know how you want to come out.
Hopefully when you say you're working on your show for that, you're not preparing to bomb for that.
Right.
You said you bombed twice in one night, and then you followed it up with, I'm getting ready for a big show.
Right. I think I'm just being hard on myself.
Yeah.
Like I'll watch it and go, God, that's terrible. And then, later people are like, dude, calm down. Okay. You're right. Ready. You're ready for this.
It's easy to do that. It is easy to do that. But it's good. Also good to get the bombs out of the way. That's how I always feel. Like if I'm ever on a streak and my shows are just going really well, like I know it's coming, and
it's a smart
I would rather get it out of the way before another big show. Go to mic and just get it out. Get it out of the system. Yeah.
That's what I'm telling myself. I'm just getting it out of my system before getting too close to actual showtime. But yeah, it's a good week. I'm triple vaccinated as of today.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So I got my booster, took my kid in. He's got both of his now. He's
that's
9,
fantastic.
So feeling
good.
Yeah,
are you feeling any effects of the booster? I got the booster a few weeks ago, and the only effect I've had for any of them is a sore arm from the shot.
Yeah, I got mine. The lady was like, you might bomb a couple times at some shows. That's all that would happen with this.
She's like, here's your booster shot. You're going to go do terrible at comedy.
That's right. That's right. It makes you bad at comedy. That's the only thing that I can think of that would go wrong with it. So.
Right. So if you get your booster shot, just don't go do comedy and you'll be fine.
That's right.
Well, we should take care of the show business. We got some announcements. Be sure to follow the podcast wherever you're viewing the podcast right now, this live stream. Make sure you're following us on that platform, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitch, Facebook, all that. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you haven't already, we can always use a nice 5-star rating and a nice review. You can do that on Apple Podcasts and on Podchaser. I think we're on there as well. Those are 2 places where you can actually leave reviews. We've got some fun stuff hopefully coming up in January. That's the big announcement. In January, we're going to try to stay on this every other week schedule with these live streams. However, the Art of Bombing is moving to Denver. I'm moving to Denver, so that means January is going to be up in the air because we're moving in January. If all goes accordingly, we're moving in January. So, with that being said, I'll be also doing some shows. So between moving and shows, and I have to help produce Snow Jam Comedy Festival, there will be a few weeks in January where I'm pretty much going to be living out of my car. So we'll do our best to keep on schedule with the Art of Bombing, but we may have to take a slight little hiatus, but we'll keep everybody updated with that. Hopefully we'll be able to stay on schedule and go from there. But like I said, if we're not out there, if we're not staying to schedule, once we get into February, we'll be back on track. So January is just going to be up in the air with the move, but it'll be great because now we'll be in Denver, and that's going to open up more opportunities for some great in-studio guests. Still going to have great guests on these live streams, but Denver's got a great comedy scene. There's a lot of great, fantastic comics there, and hopefully we'll be able to get them on the Art of Bombing.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's going to be good. Good luck to you and your move and all that fun stuff, man.
Appreciate it. All right. Well, before we bring in Erin, do you have any upcoming shows
I do want to plug Knuckleheads right here in Kansas City. Again, great venue. I'm going to be on that show with local comedian Amber Lehman. Love her. She's hilarious. And Dustin Slentz, another great comedian here in town, as well as a great host, a few different shows around town all the time. So it's going to be fun. Anybody in the local area listening, get down there. Knuckleheads, 8:00 on Wednesday.
Fantastic. I have some shows coming up, but I did not write them down because I am obviously not a professional for this, and I forgot to prepare my shows. I am on the road, actually, December 10th and 11th. I forget the exact venues, but you can go to my website, danbublitz.com, and find out where those shows are going to be, or follow my social media. I'll be posting about them. But I got those coming up. And then January 14th and 15th, I will be at Gutty's Comedy Club. And I'll be featuring in Minneapolis, Edina, Minnesota. I'll be featuring for my good friend, Brandon Young. He and I actually helped co-found the San Diego Comedy Festival. And that's going to lead us into our guest today, because our guest won the 2020 San Diego Comedy Festival. Now, just want to put it out there that I was not an organizer that year because I stepped away. We both stepped away, but it's still a cool full circle thing. That's actually how I met Erin, is I helped host some of the shows. I did some judging for their festival that year, and that's where I met her, and she's fantastic, obviously, because she won the whole thing.
Well, you voted for her, right?
Well, of course. I mean, she was funny. You got to vote for funny.
Well, you're right about that. She is really funny, Dan. I checked out a lot of Erin's stuff, and I'm really what I see, and I hope she talks about this on the show today. She just really seems like somebody who both can toe that line that's so hard to toe between being somebody who can perform really well in bars but also at clubs, but also somebody who, can just turn around and do a clean corporate show if she wanted to. I mean, she just kind of seems to have a lot of range, and I'm
a lot of versatility there.
Yeah.
Which is good, because that's one thing I think a lot of comedians they need to be versatile. I think when a lot of comedians get intimidated by doing clean comedy, I'm my freedom of speech, blah blah blah, whatever it is, and it's just excuses. You should be able to work clean, but you should be able to be dirty if you have to, because if you're in a bar, sometimes you have to be a little dirty to get people's attention because that's what
right.
they want. That's why they're in a bar.
Beers and hookers. You got to talk about them.
Exactly. Well, I think with that, we're ready to get into. We're gonna play the clip, and then we're gonna bring Erin in. She's gonna join the conversation. So let's
Here we
do
go.
it.
And now it's time for the stand-up soundbite.
So I've been doing a thing. I've been turning off all the screens. I have an earthquake radio. Not to brag, I'm prepared. And I've just been listening to the radio. Okay? Yes. And I wouldn't say I'm a competitive person because I would say I'm the most competitive person. And I love the radio because you can win prizes, okay? Yeah, so far in my life, I've won tickets to a hockey game, okay, a booze cruise. Remember, booze cruises? And a honey baked ham. That's what I call the hillbilly hat trick of radio prizes right there. I won them all listening to country music radio, and I think the reason why is I'm the only person in LA still listening to country music radio. Also, nothing makes you feel like a winner more than eating an entire honey baked ham by yourself. I also like the radio because it presents some unexpected moments to happen. You have a playlist, you know what's coming up next. Not with the radio, it's spontaneous. So the other night I was flipping through the channels and this woman came on and she was singing about this perfect love. And she could fail and stray and make mistakes, and no matter what, this person would always be there for her. I was like, oh, I want that, right? Turns out that was Christian radio. I'm not a religious person, but for like 2.5 minutes, I wanted to be loved the way Jesus loved that woman. It's definitely blasphemy, but I had the thought before I knew, I thought I'd let that guy do butt stuff. What I'm saying is I hear all these 20-year-old women be like, I lost a hot year in a quarantine. It's like, I'm 34. I lost a fertile year. Oh, you got a new wrinkle. I'm sorry for you. I'm fantasizing about Jesus.
Welcome, Erin.
Oh, hi. So funny to watch yourself do stand-up.
Right? Like, that's how we torture the guests. We make them watch their own clip.
And run. It's like, well, also your intro for me was so nice that I was like, maybe I should just leave now. And like do an Irish goodbye and be like, that was the best it's going to get. I'm just going to go.
Career peaked.
That's everything I think I wanted people to say about me. So maybe we'll just be done. Okay.
That's awesome.
Thanks. Dan.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. Thank you. First, before we get into the conversation, I do want to thank you. You are kind of our guinea pig. This is our first live broadcast version of the show, so thank you for doing that. So if we have a few technical issues, hopefully everything will go smooth. But thank you for being our first guest on this new format.
Absolutely. It's not to make you feel less special, but you're not my first StreamYard, so.
Oh, well, that just means you're getting around.
I'm gonna grow the virtual blog here. Oh my gosh! And congratulations on your upcoming move.
Thank you. It's very excited about that. It'll be nice to be in a place where it's a little warmer. That's a big one.
How many people can say that going to Denver? But yeah.
Yeah, they still get snow, but from what I understand, it doesn't stay as long as it does where I currently live. Now it snows and then it just stays there for like 3 months. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that move. But yeah, so did you do any shows this week?
I did shows this week. Gosh, where have I been? I went out, actually one of my favorite shows out here, I did Laugh Local, which is in Redlands, which is a bit of a drive, but those producers, I can't brag on them enough. That is an awesome show if you're out in that part of California. Always packed house, always just the best people in the world run it. You know those shows where whenever you get the chance to do it, you're like, okay, I'll go whatever day you'll have me, I'll go out there. And then what else did I do? I did a clean comedy show at a laundromat in Culver City on Friday night.
I'm sorry. The reason that's just so funny because it's, I hope they did do that on purpose because, you go to the laundromat to clean, your laundry. So they're doing a clean comedy show at a laundromat is hilarious.
Yeah, it's called Clean Up Comedy. So
oh, I love it.
It's in a working laundry. Like people are doing, there was one lady, luckily not during my set, but during somebody else's, they got one of those rolling baskets and like very dramatically and loudly rolled it as slowly as she could over to the washing machine and unloaded and put her things in the dryer. And I was like, I respect that. Honestly, if you're just going to do your laundry and you're like, end up in the middle of a comedy show, why not heckle? It was the only basket heckle I've ever seen in my whole life.
That's hilarious. But yeah, I totally get that. I mean, that's almost worse than showing up at your favorite bar and there being a comedy show. Hijacked comedy. That's what I call a lot of bar comedy. It's usually just a hijacked show where nobody at the bar knows there's a comedy show and suddenly there's comedy. But you already don't want to go do your laundry. Like that's one of the worst things to have to do is go to a laundromat to do laundry, and everybody hates doing that. It doesn't matter who you are. That's like the worst. And then to show up and then there's comedy. It's just like, oh.
Yep.
How does this get worse?
Mm-hmm. There were a few people that as we started to gather, they like very quickly wrapped up whatever it was they were doing. You know what I mean? They were like, oh, it's not done washing. I don't care. Into the dryer it goes. You know what I mean? I'm going to get out of here before the show starts. I don't care. It's a Friday night. I'll bring them home wet. I'll lay them out on the line. You know what I mean? I got a balcony.
We're in California. It's nice out here.
The sun will shine tomorrow. They can
exactly. It's the Sunshine State. We'll get them dry. Well, it sounds like those shows were pretty fantastic, but this show is The Art of Bombing, so we like to talk about some of those bad shows. And so I would love to hear your story about a show that went really bad that you felt like you bombed on.
I felt really torn about what story to tell you. I feel like I have two that are like haunting and memorable. But the one that was actually right after I did that show at the La Jolla Comedy Store, I got booked to headline a show at a different venue that same night. So I left that show where I did well and felt, after those shows, you're like, yeah, I did a good job. Like, hey, I'm feeling good about myself. And I drove and I went to this bar. It was a bar show. I walk in, I was worried I wasn't going to get there on time always when you're doing those back-to-back shows that have a half an hour drive. And
yep.
I feel like I am, especially these days, being very famous for like my schedule is like, okay, by the hair of my chinny chin chin. So I did it to myself that night and they were like, no problem. Somebody's still up. I get to the bar. I walk in, they're doing it like on this outdoor patio. And I walk like onto the patio and the comic that's up before me is clearly being bullied by the audience.
Oh no.
And is not responding to it well. You know what I mean? It's instead of having any resilience, it's a lot of like, hey guys, I work really hard to write these jokes and you all are being not nice. And so I went from like on cloud 9 to like, uh-oh.
You get that instant panic, that kind of like the feeling of intimidation, especially when you see the comic not doing very well, and it's like, oh god, I have to follow this. Is this what's in store for me?
I'm like, no jokes, just a lecture for these people that like they're rough. It's a rough assortment of folks. I won't lie, and also. There's like, I don't know, there's no attempt being made to do the comedy, even so I was like, okay, no problem. I'm gonna go get a beer first though. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
I got a long set here. I'm gonna go. get a beer and hope that it gets better by the time I get back. I'm an optimist, Dan, is what I'm saying. And so then when I came back, I had my beer and I and then the comic was like, that's your headliner. And like, she's gonna get up here and set you all straight.
Oh no! Talk about being thrown under the bus.
And I don't know. I feel like I'm not a mean comic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I might be. I can be a little mean, but like I'm not a bully comic. You know, like that's not mine. And I was like, uh-oh. That's not usually what I lead with, is like I'm gonna get up and like I'm gonna come clean up Dodge. You know what I mean? I'm like, my approach is usually like, hopefully I can get them to like me enough that I can be mean. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
that's the because I'm not intimidating. I'm 5'5" and 100 and whatever. You know, like I'm not gonna beat anybody up at a bar show.
What? You're not? You can't just pick up a chair and knock somebody out? Come on.
I have been, in this phase of my life, I have been considering learning the skill of how to kill someone with my bare hands, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. And so in this instances like this, I'm like, damn it, I've got to put that higher on my to-do list. You know what I mean? Just a little bit more menacing. I don't know. So I get on stage, and the best laugh I get all night is the very first thing I say is I look around at everybody and I go, is this a prison? And they really liked that. They appreciated that because it was like, you know, kind of, it was like bricks with the wire, you know, the barbed wire.
Oh, so it kind of looked like a prison yard.
It looked a little bit like a prison. And like I said, kind of rough. It was a rougher looking assortment of human beings. So they loved it though. They thought that was, so I talked a little bit about that. But there was this one guy who was watching a sports game very loudly on his phone in the front row. I don't know. So
that reminds me of I've seen that happen where there'll be people at a show or whatever, especially in a bar, and they'll just start playing music on their phone or something. They're just like, I'm not doing this comedy stuff. I'm not into this. So I feel
like also like if you're at a bar show and there's a TV playing sports, fine. Like that's it's on the menu of things
kind of, yeah, to be expected.
I can't beat that out for you. That's on me. But like if you are actively and have been actively and loudly watching a sports game on your phone, but have chosen to sit in the front row of a comedy show when there's like a whole bar inside to go do that, which has a television with the game on it. I don't know.
I wonder if it seems to me like maybe that person was dragged there against their own will.
Yes, absolutely. That's also, I think that something I've noticed, I don't know, tell me if you've noticed this too. There's a little bit of something happening sometimes with crowds where like, because of COVID, I feel like people are not 100% aware they aren't in their own homes anymore all the time.
Oh, yes. Yep. They've kind of lost the sense of social awareness and social surroundings.
Yeah, like some of the choices being made are not like one. They're ones you would do like in your living room at your house.
Yep, not at a comedy show.
Not in public in general, but I see that playing out at comedy shows mostly. Anyway,
I don't know though, because there are people before the pandemic that, you know, when you're on public transportation that will play music without headphones and stuff. So there has been some of that already.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's also that on hikes here. Like if you go to be in nature, like people playing music out loud but
that's amazing. It's kind of like back in the 80s when people ran around with boomboxes and batteries. Battery-powered boomboxes.
Yeah, like the big D batteries. Like, do they even sell those anymore? What do those power nowadays? They were only good for boomboxes and Teddy Ruxpins, I feel like.
Right? That's funny. I think, yeah. And flashlights. Flashlights are a big one. But
I
who
am.
uses flashlights now? You got your cell phones.
I got myself. I got my earthquake radio that I talked about in the clip. If you hand crank it, it turns into a flashlight, everybody. Okay, so
Ooh, it's a hand powered one even. That's amazing.
hand or solar powered. Okay,
Ooh.
my mom got it from her credit card reward program because she was worried about earthquakes in California.
That's a great gift.
I can tell you though, it can only do one or the other. So you can either see or listen to the radio.
Well, that's you know why that is. It's because you listen to the radio to find out what's kind of happening, and then it happens, and then now that that's done and over with, now you have to get it. You have to escape, so you need the flashlight. It's a 2-part system.
Let's just say the plan doesn't change, though. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
You end up at that place, you're screwed if they change the plan along the way. So this guy is in the front row. He's watching the game, and he's wearing like a very large medallion. Like if you homemade a chain with like a big medallion for the sports team, which if I knew anything about sports, I would be able to tell you what it was.
So basically a bedazzled sports logo?
Yeah, like he was very, it looked like he should have been at the game. Like it looked like, I don't know, it looked like somebody made him leave the game to come to this sad bar.
Oh no.
And so my brain was like, well, you're going to have to deal with that guy. And so I started to try to do a little crowd work with this guy, and I like complimented his man chain.
Did you call it a man chain?
Yes. And he was just one of those people that was so impervious to crowd work that he just kept like repping the team. And I was like, you're not at the game. I'm not a football player. You know what I mean? Like, look. Ugh, and then just like it's going now, that crowd work went badly for me in the end.
That's funny. I'm not one that's good at doing crowd work either. I do horrible crowd work. In fact, I did. I tried doing a little bit of crowd work last night, and because I did a show last night, and there was a holiday party at the show, and a bunch of them were dressed up, very decorative, and there was one lady, and I didn't. To me, it looked like she was dressed like an Easter bunny like a bunny with floppy ears. So I made a joke about that. I was like, "Are you the Easter bunny with Christmas lights?" And I'm like, "You realize this is the wrong holiday, right?" And then gotta laugh. And then she was like, "It's from the Christmas Story. Didn't you ever?" And then it instantly clicked, and I was like, "And that's why I don't do crowd work, because I'm terrible at it."
I can usually do it and pull it off. And totally in that instance, I was like, man, if I had a jab, that guy knew how to dodge, because he just didn't. He was just in the football game, and so it went bad. Like you're saying, I was like, okay, I got to change direction here.
Yeah, and it really makes it awkward when you are trying to do crowd work with somebody and they won't interact. If they don't interact, it's bad.
Yeah, I feel like there are some people that are just impervious to crowd work. You know what I mean? Like they figured out the way to. Anyway, so it started out strongly with my talking about his man chain, but then it got bad. And so then I was like, I bailed on that, and I don't know. It was just one of those sets where you like, anytime you start to get a little traction with someone. There was one woman in the front row on this side of the audience that was like there for it. She was like my person. but also so enthusiastic that I don't know if you've ever had this happen where like one member of the crowd is so enthusiastic that it makes everyone else hate you a little bit.
The super fan.
I had a super fan, which thank goodness, because I feel like without her I would. But also I feel like when she was like, "Yeah, you know exactly how I feel," yeah, I was like, "Yeah, good."
You're my people. I don't know if it is like this for you, but one thing I've over the years that I've kind of started doing is when you're in the middle of a show and it's not going horribly, if you have like one table or one person that's into it, I try to forget about everybody else and just focus on them. I'm like, this show is for you.
So I was doing that as much as I could with my,
Yep.
but also depending on who that person is, right? Like sometimes if that person is the type of person that other people would turn against in a crowd. So I felt like, and then I had a brilliant idea, which was I had this new thing I was working on, which I have not done since that show. I had a little tiny chunk of new that I wanted to work out about. This is out of context going to be very bad for me, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I like did a one-woman show of The Little Mermaid in the first grade because I'm a monster. So I didn't let anyone else be in it. But I like I was trying to work out a little bit about talking about that, and I gotta tell you what, I've made some bad choices in my life, but talking to a very rough bar crowd about The Little Mermaid in first grade.
Wait, they weren't a Disney crowd?
Any credibility that I had earned up until that point, like I actively saw faces drop. You know what I mean? Like people, if I had gotten a smile, went from smiling to like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Like what?
They were on the fence about you. They hadn't decided if they were gonna go with you, like you or not. And then you started talking about that, and we're done.
No, I walked a group. As soon as I brought it up, group was like, nope. And they were like, I had them up into that point, and then I was like, oh, okay, well, all right, well, but then then after a certain point, I feel like you're just trying to recover from a turn like that, right? It's like till I change the subject as quickly as I could without making it seem like, and then I talked about it. I was like, well, clearly this is a Disney crowd. Season pass holders, anybody?
I love the way you just locked in on it.
I think I like that was definitely a pride move, right? That was like, I think that was the moment where I was like, okay, I deserve this. Because I was being cocky. I was like, okay, I can work out this little tiny bit of new. And I was planning to do it. And if I had taken a moment to actually look at my surroundings and like prioritize, which you always should do, prioritize the crowd over, right? It's like your contract is with your audience. And I think even beyond obviously picking a subject matter that wouldn't fly at like, oh, hey, there I am at like a crazy bar show in the middle of the night is like, if I had really been listening to that crowd and paying attention to that crowd, then I wouldn't have tried out that new stuff in the first place. So
yeah, it really does. I mean, it really does. Reading the audience is really important, Yeah,
I mean, yeah. I just that was the moment where I was like, okay, This is my punishment for being prideful about that. Okay.
But at least that's one of them bombing stories where you kind of have an idea of, where things derailed, and what happened. Because sometimes, going back and trying to figure out what happened, sometimes that's the hardest part, trying to figure out, okay, what I do it, like there's shows where you can do a joke 9 times, it does good, that one time it doesn't. And then you go back and you try to figure out, well, what happened that one time it didn't, and trying to figure out what was it? Did the mic cut out? Was, a distraction in the audience, or, whatever it might be. You have all these little factors, but at least with this, you're like, I know where it was. I misread the audience.
That was on me. That was, yeah. I always try to do that though when I bomb. If I usually have kind of a tough time sleeping that night. Like it'll wake, like I get the
kind of anxious and
yeah. So the thing that I do is I do just what you're saying is whatever lesson I learned from that, I have to write it down, or else my brain won't let me sleep that night. So.
Well, wow, that's a good lead in, because I like to talk about that too. How do you analyze your sets, especially bad sets, to try to, figure out what happened, or, so that you can improve the next time?
I mean, honestly, I feel like if I'm being honest with myself, as opposed to like what you're saying, it's like, oh, it works 9 times out of 10. And then that 10th time, it just didn't land. I feel like my experience of bombing feels a little bit more like for the most part, I know, right? Like I have a general idea of why things went the way they did. And so all those things I write down. If you're talking about those very rare instances where you're like, I have no idea why that didn't work, then I think you can go back and listen to your recording, and it's always something in your delivery, your timing. Have I bought enough trust with the audience at this point to be able for this joke to work, right? Like all of those things, I feel like there's a fairly controlled number of factors between those 9 times and that 10th time when things go wrong. But overall, I feel like it's more helpful to me to look at the like big picture of why a bomb happened. Because, I mean, I think of a bomb as like not just one joke not working out for me. I think of a bomb as like the flop sweat and your palms are greasy and your mouth is dry because you're like, can't get any.
Yeah, you can't build any traction.
Yeah. So those I feel like I feel like, especially if you are a comedian, you have, not everybody, let me speak for myself. Knowing some comics, this is not true for them. I'm sorry the sun is setting here because I face west, but that's why the weird light. But I would say that in general, if you're a sensitive person, which many comics are, not all, but many are, then you have an idea of what, like how you're being perceived, what happened with this group of people, and where some of the places were that you went wrong without even having to go back and watch a tape or listen to your recording on your phone. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Because a lot of times, even when a set isn't like I wouldn't consider it a bomb, but in my head, I don't think it went as well as it should have. Yeah. Usually by the time I'm leaving stage, I already am going through and like, oh, I forgot to do this setup, or I forgot this joke. Yeah. I didn't do this joke. And so that messed up this callback that I couldn't do. And I had to I went to start that joke, and then it was kind of awkward because I couldn't do the joke because I didn't do the first joke to do a callback. Yeah, all those things are going through my head as I'm walking away from the stage.
I mean, I feel like in my most toxic, ego-driven state, there occasionally my brain will go, does this crowd just hate women?
How many times does that thought go through your brain as a woman, as a female comedian?
That's a good one. I mean, it's usually at the venues where like I walk through the door and they're like, "Oh, are you here for the show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a comic." And they're like, "A female comic? We've never had one of those before." And then I'm like, "Uh-oh." This is, oh boy.
Yeah, that's
Sometimes
usually a sign.
those, or like, yeah, where somebody that works at the club is like, "Oh, I had this happen recently. Oh, I just thought you were the headliner's hot wife."
What? Somebody at a club actually said that to you? Wow. I
Uh,
mean, at least, I guess in the scenario, you're hot. That's the silver
actually,
lining, maybe? I don't
actually,
know.
I think I said hot younger wife, which I am significantly younger than this person, but but I mean, as a woman, I'll take it. But as a comic, I was like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, this is gonna be great. This is gonna go well.
Just wait until you learn how to kill somebody with your bare hands. The next time somebody says something like that, you're gonna throw the cigarette and just fist punch them right in the throat.
Whatever, just wait until I have enough money to be really hot, Dan.
I'll show them.
I'm gonna be so hot that nobody thinks I'm gonna be funny.
Oh man. Well, then you probably won't need to be funny, right? Isn't that?
You're so hot, you must belong to a man here. Which one is it? Oh,
Now, I find that hard to believe that could be a scenario in a comedy club because I know comedians, where it's like, you must be so hot you belong to a man. Not here. Not here. Maybe at like a country club or someplace. But
it wasn't more in a setting where I think that is the
kind of the norm.
Surrounding community is maybe more in that direction. So
one of them areas.
yeah.
Oh man, it's funny but also terrible. How did that show go?
About how you expect for it to go.
It was like, fingers crossed. I was hoping. I had hopes it went better than what we were going to expect.
Honestly, it's gosh, I feel like that you all talked a little bit about clean shows versus like club shows or bar shows or things like that, and I think that's something that even when I work clean, I may be a little bit darker than people expect me to be because of the way I look. I mean, I think I get booked on the clean stuff because I can work clean and because I look like a Mormon, but I think that then I don't rely on a lot of bad language in my set anyway, so like it's easy to kind of, but my point of view stays very consistent, which is maybe not what you would expect from a person that looks like me all the time, you know what I mean? That like, so yeah. I feel like that's where that show in particular was like, they were expecting a certain kind of comedy from that evening, and I feel like that whole show they were like, why aren't you talking about your husband? You know what I mean?
That they expected that you had. That's funny.
So I don't know. It that was one where I would say it was not a bomb, but I did fine.
Yeah.
It was a fun, which I almost nowadays get harder on myself about the ones that are just fine than absolute bombs, you know?
Mm-hmm. Because because the ones that are just fine, that's where it seemed, like, you probably could have did something better to make it a better set, where a lot of times if you just straight up bomb the whole show, you lost them somewhere at the beginning or whatever, and there's no return. It's not going to be anything but a bomb. Now, the bombing, that dreadful feeling you get when you bomb, how long does that typically last for you, and how how does it how has it changed over the years the longer you do comedy?
It doesn't change. It's never changed for me. I mean, you just feel, I don't know if you can curse because you bleeped me out earlier and I just had an awareness of that when I almost used the F word a moment ago. But I feel like you feel like garbage, and then I come home and I can usually fall asleep, but then I wake up in the middle of the night like, I'm garbage, and by the way, reminder, you're garbage. And if I haven't written down like a little school teacher, if I haven't written down the lessons I've learned that night, then I do that just so that I can externalize some of that feeling somewhere, right? Like even if I don't ever look back at those notes again, which I should, but even if
I was just going to ask that. I was actually going to ask if you go back and ever look at those notes, because that's actually an interesting thing to do, writing down the lessons that you're learning, because a lot of people, when they go back and analyze a set, they might take some sets on sets. I said that backwards. I was about to say they might take some sets on those notes. Speaking of bombing, there's a bomb on I did the punch before the setup. That's what happened there. But they'll go and they'll take some notes about the set, but not specifically the lesson. It's very specific to that particular thing or whatever, but going and doing like lessons, what you learn, even if it's you had a good show and you still learn something, and writing that down, it's still that's a good exercise. And I feel like even going back and looking at them sometimes would be very beneficial.
Yeah, I think I do go back sometimes. I feel like I should do it when I have a good set, but I don't.
Yeah.
When I have the bad stuff. But I don't know. I think I'm one of those people that even still, like I have a stupid like paper calendar in my life because I have to write it down. Like just the physical act of writing something down. Even on
do you physically
like
I was just gonna ask, you physically write your jokes?
I have to. I have to. And if I'm doing like a long set and I have a longer order, or I'm in my head about like remembering a bunch of new stuff or something like that, like my solution for that is I always write it all out again. Like there's just something about the muscular exercise of having to do that really helps me. So anything that I've ever written on my computer or on my phone just doesn't have the same, it just doesn't stick with me the same way. So I feel the same way about those lessons though, is like I could probably, even from bombs I've had years ago, I can probably tell you the top 3 bullet points from those just because it's also internalized in my soul, like that I'm garbage from those experiences. But also beyond that, I have like that muscle memory of, I can remember kind of what it felt like to think those thoughts associated with that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something I used to do. I had to do to try to remember stuff, is, writing it down is pretty good, is a good tactic for that. I've since, I don't write now physically, not as much as I used to, but that was something how it definitely helped me like memorize things, getting it out. But then I realized, for me anyway, I kind of became too scripted, because I would write it out and then I would try to do the joke word for word. And then if I didn't do it word for word, then I didn't do a good job at that joke and like all these things. But then I also noticed I was very tight on stage. Yeah. And so I kind of got away from that, but that was just for me. That's what worked for me. Now, I like to always ask this question with my guests, going back to talking about that when you have a joke that does really well, and then maybe one time it doesn't, or just any joke in general. When you tell a joke and it bombs, what goes through your head in that moment?
I'm not allowed to curse.
Well, I mean, technically, you already have cursed a couple times. It's not that big of a deal.
Actually, thinking back, I think I have too. I mean, usually it's just like,
I mean, you can curse. It's fine.
Please. I think it's somewhere between that and like, okay, okay. what's coming up next and how are we gonna adjust that? Dance a little faster, Erin. Like, you know, yeah, I like it. Sure. We'll say that word that comes to mind. I wish it were the S word. But yeah, I think depending on the crowd, sometimes it's like, okay, hurry up and pretend they weren't supposed to laugh at that. Get on
Right.
with it.
That's like a great tactic. Just pretend it wasn't supposed to be funny.
I'm meant to do that. I'm getting to one. You just give me one more second.
See, I had to tell an unfunny joke because the next one's gonna be way more hilarious.
Context. I'm just giving you some context for how funny this next one is gonna be.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, well, I like to go more positive towards the end as we kind of wrap up. So, one of the things I've been doing is I've been building a playlist on Spotify, although I don't know if I should be building a playlist anymore on Spotify after all the controversy with all the comedians getting wiped out of their catalog. But we have an Art of Bombing playlist for the Get Pumped, and it doesn't have to be a song that gets you pumped for comedy, just pumped. Do you have a song that you would like to add to the Art of Bombing playlist?
Oh, this is a very vulnerable question. Well, okay, there's one that the one that's right now, you can choose. The one that's right now is Rock Steady by Aretha Franklin. I feel like that like makes me feel confident and cool and like is upbeat. The one that got me through Zoom shows was a bit more wild.
I'm only laughing because I know what you mean. Like I really relate to that getting through a Zoom show.
Like you gotta get to a higher place than you do it. You know what I mean? Like
yep.
The live audience does something for you. Like when you're in Zoom, you gotta start at an 11 or else.
Yep. Well, in a live room too, you can feel you can feel their energy. In a Zoom show, you can't feel the energy.
No, you're the only wave you're riding is your own. So I would say the one, and don't judge me for this, dear viewers, if you don't listen to this song. It's a good jump around. It's I'm a Reed by
I'm a Reed?
Yeah, IMMA Reed by Zebra Cats. Who's like an experimental artist person / musician.
I'll have to check that out. I've never heard of Fever Cat.
Once you do, please text me and tell me what you think about it.
Speaking now, going back real quick to your other song, the Aretha Franklin. Have you seen the new Aretha movie?
I haven't
the
yet.
Biopic pick?
Mark Maron's in that, right?
Yeah,
like, I need to watch it. I haven't yet. Have you seen it? Is it good?
I have not seen it either. It's a movie that I want to watch, but yeah, haven't got there yet. But I was just curious.
Favorites? No, he's one of my favorites. I need to see it. I haven't. I have not like been in a movie mood a whole lot these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like with Netflix and like Hulu and HBO Max and all these streaming services, and with all the content they're putting out, like with series and stuff, it's easier to get caught up like watching a series versus sitting down to watch a movie. Like I find that happening with me where I'm like, I should watch something, and I'll think about maybe a movie, and then I'll watch a few episodes of whatever I'm watching.
Well, at least I feel like you're probably, by the end of the day, it's like my brain, like narrative structure is like, I gotta work for that. Like, give me something that like I will definitely fall asleep to, the Great British Show, and the stakes of me missing an episode will be very low. You know, like that's.
Yeah, I'm the same.
For this very small TV I own, but I'm like, I watch like a few hours a week. Like I'm busy. Like we gotta get you a bigger TV. It's like
yeah, that's kind of a lot of times if I'm watching something too, it's just usually background noise anyway. I'm probably trying to multitask. I'm working on my computer, doing whatever. So it's just like background noise. So yeah, I don't like to commit, And I've even found that with some of these TV shows that, a lot of my nerdy friends are always trying to, oh, I can't believe you haven't watched, whatever Marvel series is on Disney Plus. And I'm just like, I that deserves a full commitment. There's too many things you have to pay attention to. And my attention span does not allow that because I'm multitasking.
Then I'm like, oh no, are we becoming like the TikTok brain of like, I can only like pay attention for 7 seconds to anything at a time? Because I tried to watch Succession on HBO and I was like, this is slow.
Oh no, what are we becoming? It's
Where's Marrying Millions? That's the real Succession.
Oh, that's funny. All right, well, I've got one more excuse me, I've got a couple more things that I want to talk about that I'd like to end on a fun note. But before we do that, I just want to let everybody know that after we do these next couple of questions, we are going to open it up for a quick Q&A. So if there are questions about comedy that you would like to ask the show, you could do that, to get some input from Erin and myself. And if, maybe Josh wants to pop back in and give some advice on some of these questions, you can ask kind of whatever, but keep it professional. You can ask some fun questions, but let's not be inappropriate or anything like that. I just want to throw that out there because I do know we are on the internet. So just keep that in mind. Don't be inappropriate. The other thing I like to end on, like I said, because I like to go positive. Let's see, real quick. We're interacting. Sing Along by Sturgill Simpson is my blood pumping song. Oh. Sing Along by Sturgill Simpson. I'll have to check that one out too. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard of them, but not necessarily that song.
Sing Along. I wish we could play it right now and like.
Right, but that'll get us kicked off. Copyrights.
Right.
All right. Well, real quick. So we talked about your, a story where you bombed. I always like to go more positive towards the end. So I like to hear what in your career so far, what has been one of your favorite gigs, your favorite shows?
Oh man, that's a good question. It's so funny, isn't it, that the bombs are the ones that we remember?
Right? No, you're not wrong about that at all.
Maybe just me. Oh, we lost Josh. Maybe that means me a particularly toxic person. But I would say.
Now he's back. What are you doing, Josh? You're confusing.
Yeah, I'm doing that. It's me. I'm interrupting the show, guys. You want to see it again?
No, just.
It's also so dark where you are that like the creeper vibe is very cinematic right now.
Hey, I can't control when the sun goes down, guys.
Yeah, you're forgetting. You said that the sun's going down where you're at. It's still sunny out where you're at. Where we're at, it's turning into a cold wasteland. Right. It's already dark where we are. We're 2 hours ahead of you. So.
Yeah, but you've got some ambient lighting.
It's true. I do have a ring light going on here, so I have some light.
Oh, wow.
Josh might have to invest in one of them.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to do some research on Sturgill Simpson, guys. I'll be back later.
Okay.
Okay, a set I loved. I wish I had prepared for this to think about this a little bit more. I loved that La Jolla Comedy Store set because I went to graduate school in San Diego. I won the San Diego Comedy Festival. I did comedy there while I was in graduate school, but I feel like the San Diego scene has gotten a lot cooler since then. Like a lot has happened and opened up. And
yeah. Did you ever do comedy in San Diego?
Yeah. I was there. Yeah.
Oh, really? What years were you there? I'm just
starting in 2014. I was like the end of 2014 to 2017, early 2017. Okay. A couple years there. But I know how I never anyway.
Well, yeah, it is weird because I was still there. I left in 2016, so
I mean,
I was still very active. But
I was in graduate school, so I wasn't as.
yeah, you're not going to be as active as you can be. I mean, that's you gotta get the education.
Yeah, but okay, but I'll say like a lot. I like one of my friends from graduate school came to that show, and I met some people that had seen me in the comedy festival that I had never met before, and were like, maybe started off with a little bit of the like, oh, you won the thing, and I was like, yeah, but then they liked me, and then that was nice. So I feel like that one is a recent kind of full circle one where not only do you have kind of a good show, but you also like it also feels like some version of a homecoming in some ways, which was very nice too.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and that's a great club too. It's a fun club.
Oh my God.
Just for people watching, if you want to watch the set that she's talking about, it was from the clip from earlier in the show. But I did share the link on in the comment section. So if you want to go watch that full set that she's talking about on her YouTube, and then while you're there, make sure you subscribe to her YouTube channel. You can do that right there. All right. Well, that's a fun story. If we're going to open it up for a quick Q&A, I hope people were thinking about questions. If you want to ask some questions, this is the time to do it. While we're waiting for some questions, do you have anything that you would like to plug?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, right now, at the end of the year is so hard because I feel like things are like I've got a lot of corporate shows right now that I'm doing for holiday and things like that. I'll be out in Indio next week, so anybody in that Palm Desert area, check out my website. I'll update the information there. I just follow me on social media. That's really the best way to keep up with the things that I'm up to. So Instagram at Erin Tracy Comedy is usually the best place. I'm better at that than Twitter. Twitter frightens me a little bit. So
yeah, you never know what you're gonna get, and I kind of found that it's best to
tracycomedy.com. Follow my website.
just pick like one kind of social media and try to like focus on that.
Yeah, I feel like
there's so many of them.
There's so many. I'm starting to try to do the reels, but they are also, that's a whole other thing. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I are old.
Like trying to keep up on this stuff is, I've gotten to the point, I don't think I've posted anything in a while because now Facebook has got the reels too. And the one nice thing though about doing like reels on Instagram is that they're tied in with Facebook since they're owned by the same company. So you can be viewed on Facebook too, but then you can upload on Facebook too. But still, it's just such a pain in the butt. And you never know what you're going to get out of it.
You never know. I posted a picture where I wrote something about being mistaken for a hot wife, and I used the hashtag hot wife. And let me tell you what, wow, that post did so well.
I'll bet it did. Did you get a bunch of followers from that?
But also, like, that's because I don't have, like, my Instagram persona is not, like, super, like, it's not a lot of pictures of my butt or anything. Not that it's a problem to do that if that's what you do. I'm not judging, but, like, that's not usually the kind of engagement that I end up with, So it was just from that hashtag, though, I got some comments that I like immediately had to block people because it was like, whoa.
Speaking of inappropriate, right?
That opened the whole world. Come on, AA Ron D, don't you have a question?
No, we actually do have some questions coming in here now. So now we'll
see them in the little bubbles. Oh yeah.
All right, doing bar shows have you ever done a show with a bar dog?
Yeah, I actually, the show I just did out in Redlands was so much fun, but it had a dog training class before the show. So a bunch of people at the show had their dogs with them. And there was one dog, I started talking to them because have attention dog deficit disorder, where if there's a dog in the room, and then the owner got the dog to run up on stage with me, which I was completely unprepared for. But like, you know those shows where you're like, oh, this show is just gonna be pure chaos, and like if I fight it, I will be the not fun one. So I like ran around with this dog named Piper. I thought his name was Viper, so I called him Viper the whole time. Like he was like a heavy metal guitarist or something. So and then there was another dog named Hank the Tank. I mean, we had a whole. It was.
Oh my God, Hank the Tank. That's amazing.
He had like a Christmas collar on. He was super cute. But yes, I have, and then that led into me saying that Redlands is like the Florida of California.
Oh, that's great.
Because I'm from Florida, I can say it.
Yeah, you can make fun of Florida because you're from Florida.
Started to play, like they had all the Christmas lights were wrapped around the pole, like a pole, and then like draped out to the side. I told them that was a redneck chandelier, and like we hung out with the dogs in the weird bar, and it was lovely. Like I said, I love that show. But
that's awesome.
It's hard, kids and dogs. There's a reason why in showbiz. I also have my dog right here. Do you want to see her?
Yes, I know you have. You're a big dog person. So am I. It's funny though that the Hank the Tank. The reason that I got a kick out of that is I used to have a character, a role playing character named Hank the Tank. You know, yes. I did a D20 Modern was the role playing game, and it was like futuristic Dungeons and Dragons essentially. But my character's name was Hank the Tank. But Lee, the person that asked that question, he used to run a monthly show at this bar, and they had a bar dog. Like the dog just hung out at the bar with the owners, and he was always there. Like when they did comedy shows and stuff like that, he was the real star of the comedy show.
Yeah, dogs always are. Like
yes.
Piper was definitely the star. This is Poppy.
Poppy. Aw. What a cute little dog.
He's my bar dog.
Do you ever take your dog with you when you do shows?
That's a hard time. Yeah. Usually only if she's invited at this point, because do you hear her snore? That was a big sigh. Well, she seems very sedate right now. That's just because she's showbiz, so she's pretending to be very calm. But I did a show recently in Burbank that was benefiting the Burbank Animal Shelter, and they were like, "You've got a dog, Erin, bring your dog." And I was like, "I don't think you understand what that means," because she just like scrambles around wanting to meet everyone and eat all the food off the ground. It was at a brewery, and like meet all.
Yep.
She's on like the whole time. Like there's no just like chill and But
I feel like that would be the case with my one dog. I have two dogs, two little dogs. One would probably be just chill because he's not really a people person. Like he would want to just like hang out by me. My other dog, he loves people, and I know for a fact he would just be all over the place.
That's exactly. Then you know exactly. It's the same thing. It's like she's on a scramble from the time she hits the ground until the time we get in the car and she falls asleep from exhaustion. She's like, I want to meet everybody. I want to smell all the things, and so I think it's fun for everyone else, but not so much for me.
Yeah, there's a brewery here where they do an open mic. Well, they do a lot of comedy there, not just open mics. It's the Sisyphus brewery, and they have the comedy room at Sisyphus Brewing, and that's a dog friendly brewery. So a lot of times at the open mic, there will be people in there with their dogs. So that's always cool.
Have you ever brought your unfriendly dog?
No. I mean, I've thought about it. He's not unfriendly. He's just skittish of people. Yeah. Let's clarify that. He's not gonna like attack people and like, rah. And no, even if he was, he's like 5 pounds. Somebody could just punt him across every, So, but no, I haven't. I have thought about it. I've actually one of my goals is to eventually, I would like to get a van and convert it into a camper, because I would like to start taking them on the road with me if I could. So it makes it's a lot easier if you have your own accommodations to do that versus oh, I'm gonna, do this show, but here's my rider. I need a hotel room that's pet
Very nice
friendly.
dog.
You
I
know what I
know.
mean? And I don't have that kind of clout yet. No, I'm
Yeah,
not famous enough.
she's come with me a few times. She's a pretty good traveler, but I've had the same thought too. I feel like that's every gypsy comic's dream is like, oh, get a little caravan and
Yep. And sometimes, I mean, I have brought them on the road with me. Like if my fiance, sometimes she'll come with me, and we'll get a pet friendly hotel and bring the dogs. But it's not as much as I'd like.
no, and like you never actually make money on the shows where you have to pay for a hotel and pet
Yep.
fee every night and
Yep.
yeah.
And that's usually, in that case, it's usually we decide to make a weekend out of it. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna do like a couple weeks ago we did that. I had a show up in Duluth, Minnesota. It's like 2.5 hours from the city. I was gonna go up there and just come back because there wasn't lodging included, and it was for a fundraiser. And I just decided, you know what? I'm going to just take the money I'm making from this, and I'm just going to get a hotel for the night, and we're going to make a little trip out of it. So we did that, and it was great. Little night away. That's how we looked at it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like we have any more questions, so we're going to wrap up here. The last thing that I like to do is we play a game on the show called Pick a Number. You're going to pick a number between 1 and 20, and then I'm going to ask you a corresponding question that may or may not be related to comedy.
17.
17 it is. All right. This is a good question. If you could make a difference in the world, what would you be known for?
Oh boy.
It's a tough one.
I know this is one where like my comedy brain is like, say something funny. And then I'm so earnest that okay, so I think this connects to I'm going the earnest route, everybody. So if you're here for a punchline, I apologize in advance. I would say, the thing that I do comedy that I keep coming back to because it's hard sometimes. Not for you, Dan, but for me sometimes it gets hard. And so I would say that the thing that I can stay connected to that feels important to me is to be a person being as complicated as they really are. So I think, and specifically a woman, like a woman on stage being as complicated as I really am. And so I guess if I could make that into a larger statement, it would be something to the effect of, like even more permission for people to be as complicated as they really are and be seen in that way. And that is
to normalize it, essentially.
Yeah, that's something that we I feel like, and complicated feels like a negative word sometimes too, but I don't mean it. Maybe complex as I really but I would say that that's, if I could make a space or a stand for anything, that feels like something that I'm consistently working on, both in my own practice, in the hope that it would make that accessible for other people that are also trying to do this thing.
Oh, that's great. That was a great answer. All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Erin, for joining the show, being our first guest on the Art of Bombing live broadcast.
Thanks
You
for
were
having
fantastic.
me.
Oh yeah, it was. You got axed. We jumped the gun on that one.
I'm talking to you. Bye.
Yeah, speaking of kinks, we're working them out. Timing. But hey, if it took us an hour and 15 minutes to run into a kink, I think we're on to something pretty good here.
I miss Josh. Bye, Josh. It was nice to thank you for the nice words. Oh, there he is.
There he is. Thank you so much, Erin, for joining us. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
Whoops. We were both on that one. I think you're muted, Josh.
Yeah. I see. I meant to do that. That's what I learned from Erin's wise words of wisdom, and is that, and I used wise and wisdom to in the same sentence. That's where I'm at, and I thought that she had a really good, piece of feedback there for us, which is you meant to do that, and I totally wanted to come back on the show muted so that the last mistake would not be associated to her.
Oh, well done. Yes, bravo. Bravo. Well done.
You're welcome, guys.
Well done. You did a great job there with that. You learned something from this podcast, which is good. We always hope when people listen, they learn something.
Yeah.
And I think
she
that was... Oh,
she said to write things down as well.
Yes.
I really thought, you have trouble with bombing or anything else in your life before you go to sleep, and getting it out of your mind and just taking 10 extra minutes to write something down could really take a load off. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. I don't necessarily, take notes on like my bombing or writing like lessons, kind of like what she was talking about. But I do try to do some journaling, and along that concept where it's you getting things out, when you're dealing with the daily stresses or whatever. I don't do it daily. I probably should do it more often. It's more like bi-monthly or monthly, and then it's like pages because I'm like, oh man, what happened this month?
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's a great takeaway, is to write things down. And obviously just pretend you planned it.
Yeah, of course. This
Great
is
takeaways.
all been planned.
All right. Well, this has been a great episode. We hope you guys watching enjoyed the show. Our next live broadcast will be December 19th, 2021. That's 2 weeks from today. We're going to try to do these broadcasts the first and third Sundays of the month. That's the plan. And then the following week, not the following Tuesday, but the following week. So like, not this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, this episode will be released on our podcast, on our audio version. So it gives us time to do whatever editing we need to do. But our next guest is a fantastic comic from the East Coast. Winston Hodges is going to be joining us. He just released a comedy album on through Helium Comedy Records. So that'll be a fun guest to have on the show. So if you enjoyed this, make sure you tune into that. And again, make sure you're watching or you're subscribing and following and whatever platform and whatever they call it. That's another thing with technology. Everything's changing with that. Like it can't be one, like on the podcast thing, it's subscribe. On Twitter, it's follow. On Facebook, now it's follow. But it used to be like there's all these different terminologies. It's like, let's simplify it for this old man.
Yeah, just come back and see us.
Come back and see us.
Sounds like something an old man would say.
It does. Well, I guess we're two old men, and yes. Just come back and see
us.
And
we're both older than Sturgill Simpson, so I looked that up. I was like, that guy's he's showing some gray, and then I was like, son of a bitch, he's slightly younger than me. So.
Oh man, what a bummer. All right, well. Thank you guys, everybody, for watching. This show is a Blitzed Entertainment and Dead Mellow production, hosted and produced by me, co-produced by Josh. The Nobody Had a Podcast called The Art of Bombing theme song was by my good friend John Holt. The stand-up soundbite Bumper by Joe Nicola Music. You can check that out. It's going to be in the show notes for both of them. And all the other music and sound was either royalty-free or used with permission. And that is going to be this week's show. Thank you again for tuning in.
Night, everybody. Come back and see us.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks. Dan is from the 80s, so hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.